This image is the gates at Dachau. Albrecht macht frei, which means hard work will set you free, or something like that. It's probably a mistranslation, but what does it matter at this point? You get the idea. Now, this video is going to be about a thought experiment in which we confront the realities of Weimar Germany and the modern implications in our own time in 2026, because obviously it hasn't lost relevancy, and that's why we haven't demolished Dachau or some of the other concentration camps, because otherwise they would have. But someone wanted to preserve the physical example of something that anyone can become monstrous, not just a war veteran of the First World War that just wanted to have a decent life as a painter, you know, and not have to worry about the backlash or the repercussions of doing so. But, you know, obviously that escalated into a worldwide affair. So, there is, as I've said in other videos, no lower hanging fruit than that of Nazi Germany. It's taught to everyone in high school and so on and so forth, as was our uncensored account of Canadian history. Because obviously someone got involved and wanted to profit from rewriting the history books. Because that revisionism is a real thing. But here again, this is the scenario as well as me providing, as I just have, the disqualifiers. So, imagine this. You're at the head of a country, and you have a massive drug problem to deal with, and a poverty issue, and a housing issue. And your economy's suffering from massive inflation and debts owed to other countries, if not the IMF or the World Bank, because you wanted to have some grand infrastructure projects that would inspire the next generation of people to take up the shovels and the survey tools in order to build a future for themselves, because the land was wide open and it was there. So you're confronted with a few different possibilities as to how to deal with this issue. So if you've got different minorities that will not work with you, what do? Well, you delegate the responsibility to their community leaders. I mean, that's what any reasonable person would do, because if you're at the head of the country, you only have so much time on your hands, and eventually you're going to burn out. Eventually, you will. You know, that happens to all world leaders. Eventually, they burn out because of the stress and the responsibility. There are a few exceptions where some people delight themselves in such masochism. Anyways, so if you want to deal with the drug problem, you have to remove the individuals from the drugs, or the drugs from the people. And so you have to collect them all up into a camp. And by putting them in this camp, you also have to deal with the repercussions of these people coming off of the drugs, which means they're having psychotic episodes, psychosis, and so on and so forth. Like, they're not actually themselves. And not only this, but they're malnourished because of the drugs. You understand what's happening here? because of the drugs. And in order to deal with where the drugs are coming from, you have to close the borders. Because someone else or a previous agreement, e.g. like NAFTA, was allowing for the easy access and transportation, trafficking of these substances. And I'm going to use a contemporary example, which is the Bishnoi gang, in which which had to deal somehow, if I remember correctly, with Ryan Wedding, right? In that Ryan Wedding sought out these people that were advertising basically designated couriers that could run across the border without interference. So if you have this issue, what do? You again, you have to extract the person from the environment and the people, because otherwise it becomes a self-fulfilling or a self-serving thing, not a prophecy, just a self-contained loop, right? It's a snake eating its own tail, and it doesn't end. And the only way to stop that is to kill the snake. Because obviously the snake is if it's that hungry, is probably going to eat its own tail again. And that's a real thing. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that's a real phenomenon. A snake eats its own tail. Okay. So then you have all of these gangs running around because of the drugs and because of the prostitution, because that was happening too, and because no one had any money, right? And you have all these war veterans from the First World War who are also suicidal and have shell shock and so on and so forth. So what do you do with them? If your task is to treat them and to clean up the country so as to abide by the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, because that was real. Those were decisions that Hitler had to make. You see, if this is one of the things that people don't study, but a historian does. And that's why we're so important. So with these dramatic pauses, right, let's look at Ecuador. What did Ecuador do with MS-13? They rounded them all up and they shoved them all in the same jail. Because if they didn't, the gang would continue to operate as an agent saboteur to the national security interests of the country that for which they happen to be in, because an international gang doesn't have loyalty to a dominion or to a country or a nationality. Those people that are tattooed up like that, they are so fanatical. The only thing that they're loyal to is their brothers and the gang. You see the number of rookie mistakes that have happened, and the purposeful weaponized incompetence that some individuals have taken upon themselves because they felt that the very country and institution was the reason for our problems. But the institution is not the problem. The people within the institution are. And this is the point of the Stanford prison experiment. It was, and there's been some people over the years, some psychiatrists and psychologists that have attempted to confirm the experiment and turn it into a law, a scientific law, not just a theory, not just a hypothesis, but something that's confirmable, and not just plausible, but confirmed. But, that was foolish, now wasn't it? It was very foolish. All right. So you have this perfect mix of individuals that are addicted to opioids because the opium wars of the 19th century and the popularity of cocaine also within Europe and in elitist circles. And then also, as we all know, or most of us do, that um, Germany had a methamphetamine problem. It had a serious meth problem. So their choices were, again, do we collect up all these people? Because the circumstances of the ghettos, in all likelihood, was caused, as we observe in modern day circumstances, by the poverty and then the drugs, as people seek to find an escape from their reality and the hardships of poverty and gang style life within these ghettos. So if you're tasked with cleaning up the ghettos and trying to save your countrymen, and most of these people happen to be nomadic and of Jewish faith, what do? You delegate to a Jewish person. Because obviously you don't know the nuances of Judaism if you're not Jewish. Now, are you? No, you're not. So in the same respect, this is again because one of the groups that they rounded up was the Gypsies. You see, and the Gypsies had this mentality amongst themselves, and we're talking about Roma, okay? And this also has larger implications, say, with what was happening in Armenia. Because there was a genocide, if no one understood that. The Armenian genocide is a real thing. It's not like Germany existed within a vacuum. But that's exactly how we explain these historical events to young kids. And in order to spice up the information, many academics started acting and teaching false information because they wanted to keep their jobs, and they were being threatened by the principals that if you don't produce and continue with this anti-Nazi propaganda, then you will be fired. And that's coercion. That's coercion. The job of a teacher is to give the tools to the person that you're mentoring that will allow them to forge a future for themselves without your assistance and without you guiding their hand or pushing them along, to give them the initiative upon themselves to do what they need to do to survive within what is acceptable within society. And if they can't abide by that, they go to jail. They go to jail, but going to jail isn't effective anymore for some people. That's a harsh reality to have a confrontation have a confrontation with, is that imprisoning people is no longer effective. In a lot of cases, it is no longer effective. The only two ways that you can really punish people is, especially for grievous crimes, is exile and then being cut off from the internet. Zero access to substances or alcohol. You basically have to turn them into a Benedictine monk. And if they can't deal with that, or they enjoy it, then they should stay there. They should stay there. That's where they want to be. Okay, I once said to someone, actually to my brother-in-law, you want to know how to ruin someone? You give them everything that they want. Ta-da! That's the fucking magic trick, motherfucker. Give them everything that they want. And then watch them as they scramble like cockroaches being exposed to the light. Anyways, if you're offended by this, that's your fucking problem. Because I'm the motherfucking historian. And I'll have other academics back me up. They won't back you up. That's for sure.